When Apple launched the iPhone X over 3 years ago, it brought the biggest change to the iPhone line since the original iPhone, with a cutting-edge OLED display, dual-lens camera system, HDR, and Face ID, all in a design that still looks modern. But how does the iPhone X hold up today? I'm Dion Schuddeboom. If you're thinking of buying an iPhone X, then this is the video for you, where I will cover everything you need to know. From my perspective, as someone who has used the iPhone X as my main phone for 3 years now, alongside the iPhone 11 which I use for work. This allows me to share not just my experience using the iPhone X, but also how it compares to a newer model iPhone such as the iPhone 11. I will take you through my review of all of its key features and how they perform today, by the end of which I will answer that crucial question of whether it is still worth buying the iPhone X in 2021. The iPhone X brought unprecedented change to the iPhone line, and most of this change lies in the physical design of the phone. Today, the iPhone X still looks very modern and feels premium. In fact, from the front, it looks nearly identical to the current flagship iPhone 12 Pro. The iPhone X introduced the first OLED display to come to an iPhone, and also included the notch, but more on that later. Surrounding this edge-to-edge screen is a solid stainless steel frame that also holds the glass back panel with a dual-lens camera system. I have to say the phone looks good. The combination of premium build materials and its weight giving it a substantial feel in the hand truly allow for a quality product. My only complaint being that the polished stainless steel frame does scratch quite easily. That said, stainless steel is a hard material and is therefore less susceptible to bends or dents compared to, say, the aluminum found on other iPhones such as the iPhone SE, 11 or 12. Personally, I always use a screen protector on the front of my phone and use a case on most days. I typically use Apple's leather case. I've done a separate review on this which I will leave linked below. As you can see, with daily use there are only small signs of wear along the shiny stainless steel frame. But other than that, I would say the phone has held up exceptionally well after 3 years. Let's take a closer look at the display. This OLED display comes in at 5.8 inches and a resolution of 2436 by 1125 at 458 pixels per inch. And it looks great. The display is very bright even in direct sunlight, colors are vibrant and really pop. Additionally, the dynamic range, thanks to OLED technology, is leaps ahead of any iPhone that came before it, or even the LCD displays seen in the more recent iPhone SE, XR, and 11. To give an example, OLED displays allow for individual pixels to be turned off, therefore showing true blacks. You can see this here when compared to the iPhone 11, making a significant difference to the viewing experience. Of course, today's OLED iPhones are slightly brighter and offer even more dynamic range. That said, this is and remains an excellent display. One thing to bear in mind is that the iPhone X does only come in one display size at 5.8 inches. Now for me, and I think for many, this is the perfect screen size, but if you are looking for something bigger, I suggest looking into, for example, the iPhone XS Max. I am pleased to report that I have experienced only minimal burn-in that can occur in any OLED display over time. I've done a more in-depth video that explores burn-in on the iPhone X, but in short, I am really impressed by how well this display has held up, only slightly showing the battery icon and clock. As long as you are aware of brightness and how long your screen is on for, there really is no reason to be worried about burn-in on the iPhone X. After years of Touch ID, the iPhone X brought Face ID. Overall, I would say I'm quite happy using Face ID. It is more secure than Touch ID and allowed for the removal of the home button, which in turn led to the more modern design that we see today. I do wish that Face ID worked in more orientations as well as distances, but this doesn't just apply to Face ID on the iPhone X, but rather Face ID in general. And this brings us to the notch. Honestly, after just a couple days of use, you forget it's even there and just see it as part of the phone rather than an obstruction. The iPhone X comes with 2 rear cameras, both of which are 12 megapixels. One is a wide-angle 24mm lens with an aperture of f1.8 with optical image stabilization, and the other a telephoto 50mm lens with an aperture of f2.4. On the front, we have a 7 megapixel selfie camera. Now these specs are good, but specs are not everything. So how do these cameras perform in real life? While you do not get the ultra-wide angle lens as seen on some of the newer iPhones, the wide as well as the telephoto lens both perform very well. As you can see from these photos, dynamic range is good, especially with HDR on, showing details in both the bright as well as the dark parts of the photo. Color reproduction remains true to life in most instances. Between the two lenses, I would say I use the wide-angle lens the most, as this is also the sharper lens of the two. That said, when taking photos, it is always good to have more tools to capture the shot. In particular, the telephoto lens is great for portrait photography. In terms of video, being able to record in 4K at up to 60 frames per second mean the iPhone X can deliver the highest common quality standard used today. Although both the wide and telephoto lenses can be used for video, only the wide has optical image stabilization. When using the wide-angle lens, video is smooth. Autofocus is quick and locks onto the subject well, rarely hunting for focus points. In addition, it handles changes in light well, smoothly adjusting the exposure and ISO to maintain a pleasing image. iPhones are known for their camera performance, and the iPhone X is no exception. One area where the difference between the iPhone X's cameras and that of the iPhone 11 show the most is when shooting in low light conditions. As you can see from these examples, these shots from the iPhone 11 are more grainy and not as detailed compared to the iPhone 11. In addition to this, the lenses on the iPhone 11 are also sharper and offer even more dynamic range. This also applies to the selfie camera. But again, on their own, the cameras on the iPhone X perform very well and can deliver truly beautiful images and video. So what's the battery life like? Battery life on the iPhone X is decent. It supports both fast as well as wireless charging. After around 24 months of use, my battery health reached 80%, at which point I had this replaced by Apple. Since the replacement, my phone lasts for around 3/4 of the day, with moderate use, usually reaching around 20% battery life by the late afternoon, while on the other hand, my iPhone 11 can make it through a whole day. If battery life is a major concern to you, the iPhone XR or 11 will be better options in this area. That said, the iPhone X's battery life, while not its main selling point, meets expectations and will be sufficient for most. I just carry a battery pack when I'm traveling. One of the main concerns when buying an older generation iPhone is performance. iPhones have built a reputation of remaining fast many years after their release, usually receiving 5 if not 6 years of software support, and the iPhone X is a strong example of this. The iPhone X with its A11 processor still runs like it did when I bought it 3 years ago. Even when compared to my newer iPhone 11, there are only minimal differences in speed that you simply will not notice during day-to-day use. I use my iPhone X for pretty much everything, from productivity apps to emails, conferencing, messaging, social media, Netflix, YouTube, you name it, both content creation as well as content consumption. The two areas where the age of the A11 processor shows is when reopening closed apps and gaming. I found on my iPhone X that apps will more frequently need to restart when reopening, whereas on my iPhone 11 they will open more frequently where I left off. Personally, I do not play many games on my phone, but in testing I have noticed that games load faster on the newer iPhone 11, and more graphic-intense games do run smoother, something to bear in mind if you're into mobile gaming. Overall, when using the iPhone X, it does not feel like I'm using an older generation iPhone. I expect the iPhone X to get 2 if not 3 full years of software support and updates. So, is the iPhone X still worth buying in 2021? In my opinion, yes. At the end of the day, I believe the iPhone X offers the best combination of value as well as features. It has the cutting-edge OLED display, dual-lens camera system, HDR, Face ID, and performance that keeps up very well, even when compared to newer models. The phone looks modern and feels premium with its glass and stainless steel design. Today you can buy the iPhone X for between $300 to $350. At 1/3 the cost of the iPhone 12 Pro, I guarantee you the iPhone X is not 1/3 the phone. It is important to remember that while the newest model of a product may be better, this does not automatically mean that the previous model is bad. In cases like this, the slightly older model is where you'll actually find the best value. This is very similar to my experience with the Apple Watch Series 3. If you're interested, I'll be sure to leave my review of that linked below. If you're looking for an iPhone with a modern feature set for a more affordable price point, the iPhone X offers a great value, and therefore gets my recommendation. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them down below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching.